Fortnite's player count is dropping pretty significantly right now, you guys, and a lot of people think that this is a huge cause for concern. The topic of is Fortnite dying is back yet again for probably the 10th or 11th time in Fortnite's history. We've heard this conversation a million times, and this time it's because of Fortnite Galactic Battle and what looks like a drop in player numbers overall. But we've been here before and we've done this rodeo a million times, and honestly, just like the other times, I don't think this is as nearly as dramatic as people are making it sound. And just for some evidence that Fortnite's overall player count is dropping, this is according to Fortnite GG, who tracks Fortnite's player count every single day. As you guys can see, on March 12th, the player count on average was 1,092,000, and now 1 month later, in May 12th, just 6 days ago, the average player count was 789,000, which is a pretty dramatic drop, about 300,000 players less than before. But of course, this was when we were in two different seasons. One of them was Chapter 6 Season 2 Lawless, and this one is Fortnite Galactic Battle, but we will talk about that later on. Now, this all started when people began sharing screenshots of the Fortnite's analytics showing that Fortnite's player count is lower than usual this season. And like I said, a lot of it, in my opinion, is tied to Galactic Battle. A lot of people kind of got on me about this when I brought it up before the season came out, but Star Wars is kind of a niche theme, especially in comparison to Marvel. It's just not going to be as appealing to as many people as we think. I think a lot of people thought that this was going to be a lot more popular than it is. Even myself, at one point, especially before the season came out with all of the hype around it, I thought it was going to be more popular, but of course, clearly, based on the player count, it's not nearly as popular as everybody thought it would be. Now, I kind of expected this in the beginning. You know, not everyone's into Star Wars, and if you're not, you're probably just sitting this one out, and I think there's more likely for people to not give Star Wars a chance than to give Marvel a chance or something like that, because it's just not as popular as it once was. Now, there has been a lot of controversy around this season beforehand, during, and probably after as well, but I don't think Epic really ever intended this to be a mega popular season. And that may be a hot take, but when we really take a step back and look at it, the map has barely changed. They've barely done any, I don't think they've done any mid-season map changes, and outside of the new blasters and Darth Vader's AI, there's really not much that's completely brand new. I'm actually really surprised that Fortnite didn't go in and change more stuff about the map. That's been a really big surprise to me. Let me know if you guys want me to make a video on that later on. But like I said in the intro, you guys, we have seen this cycle so many times with Fortnite. Player counts dip when seasons feel slower, then spike again when something major drops. Now, this Hypex post right here with the graphs shows the exact pattern. You know, we see peaks when a season launches, and we see valleys in between. Of course, you know, like when OG dropped, everything blew up, of course, because everyone was going back to the Chapter 1 map, something that we have wanted a long time. This happened especially in Chapter 4, and I think that was one of the reasons why Fortnite decided to drop OG after that, is because Chapter 4, even though a lot of people are saying they liked it, especially after Season 2, I got kind of bored of it, and that kind of seems to be what happened with other people as well. The player count, it was really, really low in Chapter 4 overall. I think people have just forgotten how common this is, and that it is really, really normal. In the lifespan of Fortnite, some seasons are just slower than others, and honestly, I feel like Fortnite didn't really set up this season to be that popular, maybe because they're building up to something really, really good next season, or they just want to build more hype around when the event does happen later on this month. Now, another thing I want to bring up and emphasize is that a lot of people have been pointing to YouTube view drops like it's the end of Fortnite, and I want to emphasize that YouTube views does not equal the game being dead or dying. Even YouTube made a weird tweet themselves, and they thanked Cypher PK for virtually keeping Fortnite alive on YouTube. And when I saw this, it was it was crazy, because it's dude, Fortnite is not dead. It's okay. Just because, you know, Cypher PK is the only one getting you know, millions and millions of views doesn't mean that Fortnite is dead. You know, creators like Top 5 Gaming, I've seen a lot of people point them out, saying that their views are down when they're still pulling, you know, 700, 800 views, 700, 800k views. Yeah, it used to be a little bit more, but that's not a death sentence. You know, because they're getting 800k instead of, you know, 900k or a million, it doesn't mean that the game is dying. Of course, people may just be less interested in this season, and that's okay, because it's only a month long, and that's the beauty of mini seasons overall. Like I said, views go up and down with the seasons. If the content just isn't hitting, you know, people aren't gonna watch, and it's just as simple as that. I really do not think this is that big of a deal at all. Now, one thing that a lot of people are doing as well is comparing Fortnite to Roblox, in particular comparing the player counts between Fortnite and Roblox. And yeah, Roblox is consistently high in player count. There's only been a few times where Fortnite is a lot higher than Roblox, especially ever since Chapter 1. That really doesn't happen. But let's be completely real. Roblox is a full-blown platform. A lot of that player count, and I don't think people who don't really play Roblox or don't really know much about it, of course, they're going to think like, wow, oh my gosh, 5 million people on this game, or 10 million people on this game, that's insane. But I don't think people realize how much of Roblox player count is inflated by AFK players or bots running games in the background. So many games do that where they're like macroing or they're just AFKing games to farm rewards in games. It's not a fair one-to-one whatsoever. Fortnite is not even remotely built like Roblox at this point, but it is working its way up to being that, especially with UEF and growing. And as it grows more and more and improves, I think Fortnite will eventually get on that level, but right now it's just simply not that right now, and it's not a fair comparison whatsoever, especially since Roblox, like from its birth, has been a platform game that was made for this type of gameplay. Now, one thing that I thought that I saw Hypix bring up, and I've seen a lot of people bring up on Twitter, is that Fortnite still isn't back on mobile the way that it used to be. I think once Fortnite is back on iOS and Android in a normal, easy to download, understandable way, that alone will boost player counts massively. There's a huge audience for like mobile gaming, whether people want to admit it or not, and Fortnite was definitely one of the most popular games on Android. I believe there was a report that came out when it actually came out on mobile that they made like $5 million just in like the first month or something. It was absolutely insane, the amount of like positive feedback they got for mobile. But another thing is something that Fortnite has delayed a few times, I believe, and that is Thin Client. Thin Client is another thing that people don't talk about enough. It's Epic's upcoming system where players can download only what they want to play inside of Fortnite, not the entire game. So if you only want to play Fortnite for Lego Fortnite, you only have to download Lego Fortnite. You don't have to download however many gigabytes Fortnite is, like probably 90 or something like that. It's probably a big game at this point. So that would cut it down a lot. And what this does is it means quicker installs, smaller updates, and it allows for more casual players to jump into the game faster. And that is going to help a lot. If you're somebody who wants to play, like let's just say Ballistic, or if you just want to try out Save the World, you're not going to want to sit and play, especially with people's patience being really low nowadays when it comes to download times in games. You're not going to want to sit through, a 40 gigabyte update for all of Fortnite, or 50 or however much it is. And that's just the reality. I think Thin Client is going to help the player count a lot, especially if people really aren't interested in Battle Royale and just want to play other stuff. In general, guys, I think the panic about this is really, really overblown. There's kind of like a fear mongering that happens all the time with this. People say Fortnite's dying every time a season isn't crazy good or the perception of it isn't insane overall. I don't think the current model of what Fortnite is doing is unsustainable at all. I think that Epic Games knows exactly what they're doing. This season feels like a cooldown, in my opinion. It's 1 month, it's Star Wars focused, very, very specific. I really don't think they were trying to really make this one blow up like other ones. On the other hand, with Fortnite Remix and OG, they were definitely trying to get that one to blow up because they were promoting Chapter 5 and they were promoting Chapter 6. That makes a lot of sense. I genuinely believe after this season, the numbers will spike up again, especially if we get the rumored superhero theme. It seems like Fortnite is putting a lot of work into this, and this conversation will be no more. Another thing is that Epic is investing everything into UEFN. As you guys know, Fortnite's moving into be sort of a metaverse platformer game, kind of like Roblox, and once it's polished, it's going to change everything. Creators will have full control, new game modes will blow up, and the platform will start to feel a lot more like Roblox, but cleaner with better graphics, and that's when the player count will really explode. Once people realize how much they can do with this, especially creators having access to Unreal Engine in such this easy way, I think Fortnite's player counts will rival Roblox at some point, so do not lose hope, you guys. The numbers are down right now, but that's just how Fortnite works. It comes in waves. Galactic Battle is a niche season, and not everyone is going to be a record breaker, but Fortnite is far from dying overall. Let me know what you guys think down below, though. Do you guys think people are overreacting? Do you think this is cause for concern? Let me know your thoughts down below. Drop a like on today's video. You watched all the way to the end. You must have enjoyed, so drop a like. Subscribe to the channel. I make videos like these every single day. Use code PROZEROYT to help support me further, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.